Thank you. I can tell you in 1 second. Sorry, I'm setting it up. It is entirely up to you.
You think I can get away with putting this here so that I can see it from both cameras?
Okay.
Oh, I don't know if I changed the input source. I guess it did. Yeah, I need to be able to see it from the other side too. But both of them should be running right now. Yes, they are.
What's going on, guys? The candidates are about to take the stage now. Keep tuning in. Make sure you share with your friends. This is definitely going to be an interesting weekend.
Candidates, please prepare to take the stage. We will read you out in order. First up, Mr. Chafee. Sitting audience left, proceed all the way. Next, Mr. Whitney. Up and to the left, sir. Next, Mr. Kokesh. Ms. Jorgensen. Mr. Hornberg. Mr. Bora. Mr. Berman. Mr. Mons. And Mr. Supreme.
I get what you're saying. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not trying. I don't know that. I got my words. I got my words.
Are you going to need to be here during most of the debate?
No, I'm framing up, that's all.
Be seated? Can we sit? We all have to sit? How's everyone in the back? Huh?
Don't tell me what to do.
There we go.
Say what?
Who's the sexy guy with the hat?
I'm feeling the catch fire. Look at this. This is like flying coach up here.
Don't tell anybody this.
I think I'm good. I've done this before.
407 years ago, our fathers broke forth on this continent.
Right? Yeah, I want to come sit with you guys.
A new nation conceived in liberty, dedicated to the proposition.
Good evening. Welcome to the Libertarian Party of Florida presidential debate. The rule. The candidates have each been explained the rules, as we're going to tell you right now.
Have a good night.
Each question, they'll have 60 seconds to answer. They each have 4 30-second time cards that they can use at their own discretion. not including during your opener and closer, which is 90 seconds.
The suspense is killing me.
Candidates. Group question 1, we'll start with Mr. Kokesh.
Openers first? Oh, we do
I'm
introduction.
so sorry. As if I hadn't just heard the rules. Openers, beginning with Mr. Kokesh.
All right.
Nope. That goes stage order. Stage left and right.
I'm being corrected.
Sorry.
And rightly so. Stage order, left to right, Mr. Chafee.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to the Florida Libertarian Party. Great turnout here, a great state convention, and you're doing good work here in Florida. Very proud of the outreach for the Libertarian Party here in Florida. As I came into the stage here, I saw on the monitors here, the rise of the underdogs. And that's what we are, and that's what I have been in my political career. I started out, as you probably know, as a Republican in the most democratic state in the country, Rhode Island. Woo! That's right. And I was successful. I got elected to the city council and then became the first Republican mayor in 32 years in my city. So when you talk about rise of the underdogs, I've been there. Then I went to the United States Senate and fought the Bush-Cheney agenda. I was the underdog all the way. Of course, voted against the Iraq War, as you probably know, always being the underdog. And then I ran for governor as an independent, left the Republican Party after they got us into Iraq and other wars and got us back into deficits. I'm glad to leave that Republican Party behind, and believe me, I will never go back. Trust me, ever. And then ran for governor as an independent and became the first independent governor in Rhode Island's history. So I know what it's like to be elected outside the two-party system. I've done it. It's very, very important for us libertarians. We can do it. I did it as an independent governor. But now I'm happy to join the Libertarian Party and look forward to working with you to get more libertarians elected across the country.
Thanks. Before I go, could you just explain the time card system? Because it's not a timer. You've got some colored cards. So what is the code?
This is 15 seconds.
Okay.
This is time.
Okay. Got it. 90 seconds, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Mark Whitney. I'm here from San Diego. I am Chief Executive Officer of the Law.net Corporation. I have 25 years as a Chief Executive in the tech industry running national companies. I'm also a comedian. I tour the independent theater circuit with a show called Fool for a Client that I'm known for. It's about that one time 30 years ago where I represented myself facing 225 years in federal prison and ultimately from prison convinced Justice Stephen Breyer, then a judge, to declare my term of imprisonment unconstitutional. I'm the only candidate on this stage to have sued a president to end the participation of the United States Armed Forces in a foreign civil war. I'm also, unfortunately, here debating under protest, unfortunately. I want to thank the Authoritarian Party of Florida for censoring my speech here tonight. Earlier this week in an article in Texas, I called Jacob Hornberger a bad word. So tonight, I'll just be calling him Mother Jacober. Because I'm under protest. And so here's how political speech works in the United States. Candidates get to say or do whatever they want on stage, and then their opponents get to say or do whatever they want, and you, the people, get to decide who to vote for. You don't get to impose your sensibilities on the people. That's bedrock First Amendment. I'm a constitutional scholar. I could debate the Solicitor General on the First Amendment and win, and yet I'm only a high school graduate. But somehow 40,000 Jacobs pay me to buy legal research before they write their books. Looking forward to a great night, folks.
Thank you for adhering to the rules. Since it's a private event, we set the rules. Mr. Kokesh.
Hello, Libertarian Party of Florida. Is it a good time to be a libertarian or what? 2020 is going to be an amazing year for the Libertarian Party. You guys want the Libertarian Party to win, to keep winning? Yeah. Win, thank you. So if we want to win, we got to speak to the silent majority. If you look at the voting from 2016, if not voting for president counted as a vote for nobody, the Electoral College results would be 21 for Trump, 72 for Clinton, 445 for nobody. Let's give the people what they want. We are putting secession on the ballot this year. How many people do you know, if they had a chance to vote for one billionaire or another, if they saw that on the ballot, they would choose to secede instead? This idea of localization, localizing government, getting it down to the community level, localization is the cure for polarization. This is the everybody gets what they want strategy. When government is at the community level, it's voluntary based on your values to meet your needs. And before we get into anything else tonight, I just want to say that any one of the candidates on this stage up here tonight would be a better president than Cheeto Jesus, the other arrogant billionaire, Pocahontas, Mayo Pete, someone named Clementum I've never heard of, or that angry socialist who just wants every American to have their own vacation home.
Ms. Jorgensen.
I think I broke it.
Is this okay? In the 1990s, my stump speech talked about the Republican politicians who kept selling out freedom. And I started off by saying that the Republican politicians are the political equivalent of 1-900 phone sex. They tell us how much they want it. They tell us how good it's going to be. They tease us and tempt us and tell us how great it will be. But they never come over. So what's the difference between then and now? Now they're not even trying. They're not even pretending to cut taxes and cut spending. Now it's like, ooh, baby, yeah, don't you want it? And that's all we get. All we hear from Republicans now is fear that the Democrats might take over. And what do we get from the Democrats? Again, in the 90s, the Democrats kept saying, oh, no, we're not socialists, no. And now the front leader is a self-declared socialist. And what are they afraid of? You know, again, their message is fear against the Republicans. Neither one is sending a positive message, and we need to send a positive message of liberty. What we need to do is we need to grow the party. During the 96 campaign, Harry Brown and I doubled the size of the party so that we could have quality candidates at every local, or at every level, state and local. And that's what I'd like to do again. Thank you.
Mr. Hornberger.
Thank you, and it's great to be back here with you all at the Florida Libertarian Party Convention. You know, we live in a society in which the federal government has effectively nationalized our income. They take whatever percentage they want with this tyrannical agency called the Internal Revenue Service. They make us give permission and consent to engage in occupations. If we don't comply, they put us in jail. If we don't comply with their tax laws, they put us in jail. They even kill us if they call it resisting arrest. They've got a system of mandatory charity, which isn't really charity at all, but if you don't comply with it, they put you in jail. If you travel to countries that they don't approve of and trade, like Iran or North Korea or Cuba, they put you in jail. If you ingest substances that they don't approve of, they put you in jail. If you hire people that they don't approve of, they put you in jail. That both Democrats and Republicans have imposed upon our land. And Donald Trump calls it greatness. The Democrats want more socialism. We have two ways to go in this party. We can devote ourselves and nominate a presidential candidate that's going to reform this welfare warfare state serfdom. I don't think that's the way to go.
because we are committed to freedom. We have always been committed to freedom. And that means identifying these infringements on freedom and making the case to our fellow Americans of why a free society is the best society. And that means hitting these people and hitting them hard. I'm here to ask for your vote, your support, and your nomination as your presidential standard bearer, because that's exactly what I want to do to these people. Thank you.
Mr. Vora.
My name is Arvin Vora, and I am running for president to end the welfare state, to end the warfare state, and end the income tax. Now, can I get a hell yeah for the Patriot Act? No, I can't. But that gentleman over there at the end of the stage voted for it not once, but twice, and then voted to extend it. That gentleman at the end of the stage refused to pardon nonviolent drug offenders, as I have pledged to do on my first day. No, that's it. Not you, bro. I have pledged to pardon all nonviolent drug offenders, Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, and Ross Ulbricht on my first day. And that's not because Lincoln Chafee doesn't know how pardons work. He's a genius with pardons. He pardoned somebody who died in 1848. He is an expert at this, but he is not an expert when it comes to political courage. But let me tell you, he is right about one thing. He has said publicly that this culture is not ready to legalize all hard drugs. And he's right. This culture is not ready. This culture has created this government, and it will recreate this government. Our job, the presidential standard bearer's job, is to change this culture so we can knock down this government. My website is votevora.com.
Mr. Berman.
I'm Dan, Taxation Theft Berman. I'm known for wearing this ridiculous big yellow hat, but don't worry, it comes off. I know, I have hair. So, I was born in Los Angeles, I identify as a Texan, and I'm running for President of the United States. From Mexico. No respect for borders here. I want to ask everybody real quick. Raise your hand if you're married. Okay, keep your hand up if you have a contract with the government for that marriage. Marriage license, yeah. Don't put your hand down. We're talking marriage license here. Okay, so how did that... We've been together for so long. I've been thinking about what we should do, and I think we should buy a home together and sign a contract with the government. I think it's the best thing for us to do right now. Government's in our lives way too much. We need to get... I sound like a broken record on taxes, I know, but taxes are connected directly to everything that sucks in this country. You talk to the left, the right, everything they hate. Immigration, whether you're for it or against it, taxes, welfare, having to pay high rent, that's all directly related to taxes. You get rid of those taxes, you solve a lot of problems. And that's what we need to do in order to get people to start thinking libertarian and start voting for libertarian candidates.
Mr. Mons.
I'm John Mons, and I'd like to be the Libertarian Party's nominee for President of the United States. A little bit of my background. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, living in South Georgia, a little town called Cairo for the last 20 years. My educational background is I actually graduated from high school in Gonzales, Florida at Tate High School, go Aggies. Morehouse College graduate with a degree in banking and finance. And for the last 20 years, I've had the dream job of my life, and that's being a homeschool dad. Yeah! I'm married with 4 children, and I'd like to say that I've been very active in the party for over 15 years. In my 4 races, only as a libertarian, I've never run a race for another party. I've gotten over 1.8 million votes for the Libertarian Party. You may ask, what's in it for you? Well, one, I've always run successful, professional campaigns. I've always reached out to any media, anybody that wants to talk to my campaign or about my candidacy. I'll go anywhere and speak to anyone. And that was time.
Mr. Supreme.
My name is Vermin Supreme, and let me say that if you are a delegate, you are a very important person to me. I have spent the past 30 years building an audience, entering the nation's zeitgeist, and gaining a level of notoriety that allows me to make a genuine offer to you, the Libertarian Party, and a legitimate claim that I am indeed the most pragmatic candidate in this race. And this time, it's personal, and it's for the kids. Kids are naturally anti-authoritarian. Kids enjoy nonconformity. They love humor. And kids really want to know why things are the way they are and why they're not some different way. And that, my friends, is exactly what libertarians and kids have in common. These are scary times, and if the kids don't learn about libertarianism from libertarians, they are going to hear about it from socialists. And we, as libertarians, must present our vision for a transition to a post-state world. We must hold up examples of how we will alleviate the suffering during the transition times. We must hold up libertarian projects, such as the Libertarian Disaster Response Crew, such as the Liberty Memes community that has pooled hundreds of thousands of dollars to alleviate suffering. Yes. I have learned that the Libertarian Party is indeed a party of love and compassion and empathy. To this party, I am bringing you my levity and my gravitas. Together, we can spread the message of liberty. Thank you.
All right, we'll be moving on to the first group question. The question is, do you believe you can outright win the presidency? If so, how? If not, what are your goals in running for president under the Libertarian Party banner? Kokesh, you're up first.
That's a great question. Absolutely. And first of all, we win by standing on principle, because we are the party of principle, are we not? Now, I'm happy to recognize that it would take some kind of black swan, some kind of freak phenomenon for any libertarian to win the presidency in 2020. But we should be running to win, and we should have a practical policy that we can put in place when we do win. And we should be taking every shot we possibly can to make that paradigm shift happen. Now, I think having a breakout year for the Libertarian Party is a realistic goal, even if we don't hit that. I think we can build a winning coalition if we have a message that really unifies all Americans. Again, localization is the cure for polarization. This is how we bring people together. I don't think anybody else on this stage has an actual plan for building the coalition of conventional non-voters and independents and disaffected Republicans and Democrats to make a majority. But at very least, I think we can have a strong, solid breakout year for the Libertarian Party with the right unifying message.
Mr. Chafee?
I think 2020 is going to be an exceptional year for the Libertarian Party, and we're seeing in front of us the Democratic Party just self-immolate and self-destruct. If it's not the impeachment that gives Trump this gigantic rally in Las Vegas crowing about his acquittal, it's the Iowa disaster, and then the last debate where they're all fighting each other, and Bloomberg self-destructing. This 2020 is going to be a great year for the third party, the Libertarian Party. And I bring to the party the collective experience. I've been elected, as I said, as an independent. I know how to get elected outside the third party system. I'd like to be your nominee and help grow the party. That means getting ballot access if we do well. If we can win some states and then get into that, the question is, can you win the presidency? Just win some states, get into the House of Representatives. That's what happened in 1824. They screwed Andrew Jackson and he won 4 years later. That can happen again. We can mess up with the electoral college system with a good candidate, I believe.
I just like to use my first extension card here to say that the other thing that I think is really important, before any other candidate gets to it in their answer to this question, the party and supporting down-ticket candidates and making sure that we have a standard bearer as a presidential nominee who organizationally and in messaging supports local libertarian candidates.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned to it, you guys before, but please throw your cards on the floor in front of you. Thank you. Ms. Jorgensen.
Okay, he used his heart card because he knew I was next, and I always say that. So the first presidential candidate I voted for in the Libertarian Party was Ed Clark. In fact, I had never voted in any presidential election before him. I've always voted Libertarian. And Ed Clark's answer was, if I could sit around the kitchen table with every family in this country, I could win by a landslide. If I could just explain libertarian principles, how liberty works, and how liberty is most moral, and how we can practically solve the problems, I would win in a landslide. Now, we do have a much better chance than we did in 1980 because we didn't have the internet back then. Right now, am I running to win? No, I'm running to grow the party. As I mentioned in Missouri this morning at the Missouri State Convention, Harry Brown and I doubled the size of the party during our '96 campaign, the largest increase ever, and that's my goal to do again. Thank you.
Mr. Supreme.
Yes. Well, this is post-Trump America, so anything is possible. And I suppose if I was a billionaire, I'd probably be president already, but I am not measuring the curtains in the Oval Office anytime soon. Now, on the other hand, if we do manage to lower the voting age to 16, oh, hell yes, I am the next president of America. That being said, I think this will be a campaign of outreach, of massive mobilization, of creating a viral tsunami, a tidal wave of libertarian ideas and concepts and memes that will be flooding the social media market with. It will be a very educational campaign, and of course we will be, me and my staff will be doing everything that we can in our power to bring in lots and lots of young people into the fold and educating them about what is liberty and what is libertarianism. Thank you.
Mr. Bora.
Here's what happens if I'm the standard bearer. The first thing is that as many people in this country will know about jury nullification, know that we can use it to halt the drug war, know that we can all be partners in chief in our own right while our governors fail to do so. We will, every man, woman, as many people in America will know that as currently know where Aleppo is. I guarantee you, we will halt this drug war through jury nullification if I'm just the nominee. If I'm elected, I'm going to pardon everybody, obviously. If I'm the nominee, we are going to see more homeschooling because I'm going to be talking a lot in favor of homeschooling, and you guys know I talk a lot against government schools. And I can be both incendiary, and if you've seen my national media presentation, I can also be persuasive on that topic. I am, at least people think I am, an expert in education, and many do trust the insights that I have on there. If I'm the nominee, we will see more cryptocurrency use. Because I already put out a card.
Oh, sorry.
And we will, because cryptocurrency depends on network effect. So if I'm the nominee, we're going to get those gains. If I'm elected, we're going to do even more. Can we do it? If we work to change culture. We can do this through culture change. We cannot do this through compromise. And I am the candidate that will fight to change this culture so we can knock down this government.
Yeah.
Mr. Mons.
There's several ways we can win without getting a majority of votes. One, we have to have a candidate who's willing to leave no doubt in people's mind what a libertarian is. And I've done that in the past. The other way to do that is through influencing policy. I'll give you an example. When I ran for governor in Georgia in 2010, when you have an opportunity to debate the other candidates, there was a very strong policy that was very popular with the people, popular with the party down there, the Republican Party, but the Republican governor refused to sign it. That was Sunday sales, blue laws. Well, when I got into debate, I hammered, when I'm given an opportunity to talk to the other candidate about how he felt about that policy, I made him commit that if the Georgia legislation signed and pass the bill, would he sign it? And that is exactly what he did. So I did not have to win that election to influence policy, and that's what we can do also on the federal level. We need, when we debate or push issues to the other candidates, get them to adopt our policies and have them take them and make it law, and that's how we can win without having to get a majority of votes.
Mr. Hornberg.
I am running to win. I'm not unmindful of the odds. The odds are not in favor of being elected president. But you know, it's like Han Solo said to CP3, don't tell me the odds. We have to fight to win this race. And we do that with our principles. I served on the platform committee for 3 terms back in the 90s. And I stood fast for preserving the purity of the principles of this party, because they are our greatest asset. Not only will they bring us liberty, they are the only practical solution to all the crises both Democrats and Republicans have waged. Now, you're entitled to know what kind of race we would run. And I've got the best campaign manager in the party. I'm convinced of it. Jake Porter. I'll put him up against Trump's campaign manager and whoever the Democrats put up any day of the week. And we're on the same page of this. If you accord me the honor of your nomination, you can bet your bottom dollar you're going to have a candidate that's going to be doing everything he can to win the presidency. We're targeting African Americans. I put this article in front of y'all for you to take home and read. It's from an African American reporter in North Carolina, where we've been waging an active campaign in the North Carolina primary. He says he's to the left of Barack Obama, and he's considering voting for Jacob Hornberger. He details my campaigning, and he exhorts people to do the same. There's a Hispanic newspaper in 3 cities in North Carolina, Que Pasa Mi Gente. I walked in there and I said, we favor open borders. She calls in her publisher. They've just published an hour-long interview with me that was conducted entirely in Spanish. We're going to target people who don't vote, and people who are disgusted with this system, including young people who are being fleeced. That's the practical aspect of a campaign that we would wage on your behalf.
Mr. Whitney.
So the way I see it, there's a 4-tier system that I define winning. I have pledged the next 10 years of my life to this party. In my 20s, I violated the first rule of holes. Stop digging. In my 30s, I dug out. My 40s, I rebuilt. My 50s, I killed it. And I am here for the next 10 years to support this party. Now, one way I can do that is as a candidate. It's better if I'm a nominee. It's better if I'm a nominee that makes the debate stage. It's better if I'm your nominee that is president. Last week, Jacob stood on stage and he said he's not running to win. That's what he said. This week he changed his mind. I don't know what he really means. And you want to apologize to everybody for saying that you're not running to win. You insulted my family. My son is here from Oregon. He traveled 3,000 miles. Andre Class is running to win an election here. And you stand on stage, you drop your pants, you poop on the stage saying you're not running to win. You owe every libertarian an apology for that. These people have hope, and they want something better, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. That's what he said last week. He's not running to win.
Mr. Hornberger, 30 seconds.
I said the exact same thing I said here before this party.
It's not true.
Let me put things in context,
You're a
and
liar.
you remain quiet.
You're a liar.
Mr. Moderator, let's put him
Please
under
remain
control.
quiet while the candidate's speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's put this thing in context. I met this man last week at the California party. He was the most genial, friendly guy you'd ever imagine. He brings his wife to me and says, "I'd like you to meet my wife, Julia." And I said, "Hi, Julia, really glad to meet you." We had a very nice conversation. After the debate was over, he came up to me and we started talking about his background. The video's on his website. I just listened. All he did was talk about his life, which I thought was very interesting. There's two Mark Whitneys in this. There's the Mark Whitney from last week at the convention, and then there's the Hurricane Whitney that has come into this debate. I don't know what has precipitated this. I have no idea.
Censorship. Censorship. Censorship of political speech.
Mr. Berman.
Follow? All right, so how does a libertarian win the White House? It's easy. You just have to get everybody to start thinking like libertarians. So how do you start getting everybody to think like libertarians? It's easy. You just have to start talking to them like you actually care about them and what's in it for them. Because libertarianism has something in it for everybody. I have people supporting my campaign who came from hardcore Bernie Sanders supporters, Andrew Yang supporters, Donald Trump supporters, both sides. And they came over this way because I explained to them what my platform is going to do so many good things for them without all these fake promises, without new taxes, without more government. And I hear a lot of libertarians say, you know, there's 40% of the voters who don't vote, and if we could just get those 40% of the voters to come over our way, we could actually win this election. That's one group, and you would have to get 90% of that one group to win. Or you could just go for about 33% of the other two groups, the Republicans and the Democrats, who are already out there voting, and convince them we've got a better platform. Which one do you think is easier? I like to think the easy way. And our message has been really resonating with these groups, and we've proven that we can turn these people into libertarians.
Our next group question.
Davey, before, can I use a card to have 15 seconds? Because I think this is the most important question of all, for all of us that are putting in our time, our energy, our resources into this party. How can we have success? And not only have someone that represents the ability to get elected, but also the key issues that are going to resonate with the American people that the Democrats and Republicans have not delivered on. And what are they? The endless wars we're stuck in, and both Democrats, Obama and Trump, they all say we're going to get out. We never do. And the deficit. In the Democratic debate, nobody talked about $23 trillion of deficits, $400 billion a year in interest. We're paying a year, that painful interest we're paying on this deficit that Republicans and Democrats are running up. So those are the issues that are going to resonate with the American people and give libertarians success in 2020.
Folks, watch for the red card or a call of time, an audible time. With that, we will move on, if there are no other green cards to be played, to the next group question. Given that, at most, only 2 of the names on this stage will appear on the ballot in November, why aren't you running for local office? Do you believe you can affect the most change nationally rather than locally? The first candidate to respond, Ms. Jorgensen.
Yes, I did run for U.S. Congress in '92. That's when we first got my Just Say Joe slogan. That was in the era of Nancy Reagan. With the Just Say No, so we replied with Just Say Joe. I do believe that we need candidates at every level, state and local. I must admit, I think most of us are more excited about the national level issues. Also, being libertarians, a lot of us who are in the party now got here because of liberty and because we don't think that we should even have some of these lower level offices, which is why we need to grow the party. We've got Democrats and Republicans that are running everything. We need to grow the party so that we have good candidates, so that we have donors, so that we have supporters and people knocking on doors. We need all of that so that we can take over the corrupt system we now have.
Mr. Mons.
Well, it just seems like it's been a natural progression for me because I've actually ran for local offices before. My first run for office was on a local school board seat in which I had to petition to get on the ballot. From there, and that was a race I had success with. I set a state record as far as the percentage of votes for a Libertarian candidate in Georgia. And each time I've just taken I've taken another level in a progression. I ran next for a public service commission in Georgia, and that was a statewide race. That's when I got 1 million votes. After that, I ran for governor and set a record for a gubernatorial candidate in Georgia. At that time, over 100,000 votes. And it just seems that I have had the fortune to be able to run good races and set records and get recognition for the party. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for president. Is, to me, it's not about me personally, but it's about, one, the issues. It's always about the issues and the message, and two, it's about helping the party. And I think that I can help the party get us a little bit more recognition on a national level, and that will help us across the board, across the United States. I'm very cognizant of the fact that in some states, if we can get to that 5% level, then they'll have ballot access. Now, unfortunately, in Georgia, we need 20%. But I know that if I'm your nominee, I feel strongly that some states are going to be helped to where we can surpass that barrier and make it a lot easier on these state organizations.
Mr. Kokesh.
I've run for office, for other positions with the Libertarian Party. I've been a member since high school. I've been a lifetime member since the first time I could afford it, when I got back from Iraq in 2004. Stood up a county affiliate and organized a Libertarian college affiliate back when I was in my undergrad days. And I can't get enough of this, you know, but why am I doing this? Why am I running for president in particular? Because no one else is running on a localization platform. No one else is offering this new direction to the Libertarian Party. And I think there's a real contradiction in our message when we say, you should be free, but this person should be your president. We're making an argument for centralized control as opposed to localization. And I think this platform of localization resolves that for the Libertarian Party. I'm the only candidate with a platform that is essentially taking the ring of power and throwing it directly into the fire. Every other, oh, we got some Lord of the Rings fans here? I figured, yeah, right, so I'm in the right room. Every other candidate on this stage is running to put on the ring and hope that they don't turn into Gollum.
Mr. Whitney.
I'm running for president because I think the presidency is the most libertarian office. I think it's the easiest sale. We have direct access to the Oval Office because of the work of people in this party. Over 48 years, we have access to the same pipeline as the Democrats and Republicans. And I'm here tonight being censored because of what I said about Jacob, because he said what he said. They threatened not to run the live stream if I didn't agree not to use certain words. We are libertarians. That is authoritarian. Everybody on this stage tonight needs to make a choice between authority and liberty. I got heckled after my opening by this fellow right here in the hat. He said this is a private organization, we can do whatever we want. That is literally true, but this is not any private event. This is a political event. Every speaker on this stage is running for president, and you people have a right to hear any words or see any props that they might use and make your own decision. They don't get to impose their sensibilities on you.
Come on my podcast and we'll heckle all night, all right? Not here.
Hey, are you in this debate? Are you in this debate?
I'm moderating. I'm moderating. Thank you.
You're editing.
Thank
you're
you.
adding editorial content. That's what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're imposing your opinion on the audience. You have no business doing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Supreme.
Yes. Well, let me say that my own personal credo has always been to act globally and lie very low locally. So I've been very lucky and very blessed to have been able to find this niche of running for president. I've been running for president for 30 years. It's a very natural extension of what I'm doing, is to make this run here. You know, the international media know me as an individual who runs for president. Millions of people across the globe know me as a candidate for the presidency. So I felt that it was certainly the best use of my skill set and notoriety to be able to make this offer to you, the Libertarian Party. My service is as a candidate, because I'm a very seasoned candidate, and it is arguable that in the past it's all been facetious and goofy fun, but now it's much considerably more real. Thank you.
Mr. Berman.
So the question is, why aren't I running for a lower office? Actually, I am. I'm running for State House. I'm running for U.S. Congress. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'm running for mayor. I think I might also be running for dog catcher, city council, tax collector. How? Well, I've started to build a team. We call it the SWAT team. Skilled Warriors Abolishing Taxes. I'm open to suggestions on this. I'm working with, I don't call them down ballot candidates, that sounds bad. Cross ballot candidates. I'm working with these candidates, I'm taking on more of them every week, and I'm making sure they have the resources that they need to win. We're helping them with flyers, door hangers, websites, all the tools that they need, and we're working cooperatively under the same platform that taxation is theft. And when we do this, we give each other credibility. It's not just one crazy guy knocking on your door saying, hey, I got this new party, you should join it. No, I got their back, they got mine. We're building a huge network of candidates by working this way. And in doing so, we reach more people. We have volunteers that are now out promoting more than one candidate at a time. We're covering more ground. We're getting across a more effective message and making sure that we're turning the entire country into libertarians.
Mr. Hornberger.
Yeah, I'm efforts that y'all have made here in Florida at the state and local level, and really benches have made. Never that campaign. Paul's campaign. When I was a kid, when I was in 5th grade, I was helping Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy, and it was just exciting. I think if you put together a ticket here that going to war against Trump and whoever the Democrats put up, I think this has the potential of coalescing this party. You know, there's divisions in this party, there's antagonisms. I think all that disappears with the excitement of a presidential race. And that's what I would love to see this whole party come together, not giving up your state and local races, but everybody coming together to go to battle against these Republicans and these Democrats in this presidential and the vice presidential race.
Mr. Chafee.
I did start at the local level, and I beat an incumbent, and that's not easy. And the way I did it is knocking on more doors than he did. And I went up and down. I had to yell out every street in my ward and knocked on every single door. And that's how I started my political career. And since then, I've been in 12 different races. I won 10 of them, yes. Sometimes when you get into this business, you lose a few. I've been there. But I've won 10. And the reason I'm running now is that I believe I have the best resume of anybody that's running. Don't forget, I served in the Senate, and I was on the Foreign Relations Committee, and I was chairman of the Middle East Subcommittee. I've been all through the Middle East as chairman of the Middle East Subcommittee. I'll put my resume up against anybody, but ultimately what really motivates me is I have 3 children, and I'm very concerned about their future and what's happening to our great country. Something has to change. The Republicans and Democrats aren't getting it done. $23 trillion deficit, our civil liberties being compromised, the wars continue, something's got to change, and that's what motivates me. I'll bring my resume and be happy to represent the Libertarian Party going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Gore.
There's 2 reasons. The first reason is just pragmatic. The things that I want to do are things that the president can do. I want to shut down foreign military bases right now as commander-in-chief, leave NATO, shut them down, bring the troops home, lay them off, and let them join the productive private sector. And before I hear anyone say that sounds mean, trust me on this. If you gave a lot of people in the military the chance for an early honorable discharge, I think a lot would take that.
Amen.
So that's going to be, so one, there's the practical things. Only a president or a governor can pardon people for victimless, nonviolent crimes, and I'm going to do that. But within the party, the presidential candidate sets the tone. In 2008, we should have had Dr. Mary Ruhr set a pure, raw, radical tone. Instead, we got two Republican lightweights who later endorsed Mitt Romney. Having not learned anything from our mistakes, we nominated more Republican lightweights. Bill Weld, soft endorsed Hillary Clinton, returned to the Republican Party, and before you guys talk about Gary Johnson, he has endorsed Bill Weld already. That's the strategy that's been failing. And so I'm running because I want this to be the hardcore, inspiring, visionary party that it's meant to be. I want to be the abolish government schools, the taxation is theft, the bring the troops home, end the drug wars right now, don't leave to the states, end the drug war. I want to be that party, and I think I can help that happen.
We now move to the individual questions. We begin with candidate Berman. The first thing that people see is your hat. How do you get people, especially non-libertarians, to overlook your hat and hear your message?
There's a saying, it says, speak softly and carry a big hat. And it works. I wear it so many places that it just stands out like a sore thumb, and Democrats come up to me and say, do you really believe that? And I have a great conversation with them, and they don't always walk away as a libertarian after a 3 or 5 minute conversation, but they do start thinking. You can see it in their face. And so I know a lot of libertarians are concerned about, just the message, taxation is theft. Whenever I say that to somebody, we end up getting in a big fight, and they get mad. That's you. And that's what I want to change about this discussion, because the discussion that we have determines, the things that we say determines where that conversation goes and what the end result is. And if all we can do is start planting seeds, that's a step forward in the right direction.
So the second question. Some voters have questioned your eligibility to serve as president because they claim you are not a U.S. resident. How do you respond?
Can you define resident? I tried to look it up in the U.S. Code. There's quite a few different definitions all over the place. What's interesting about that is if you redefine the word resident, you're effectively changing the Constitution. So what did resident mean when they wrote the Constitution? And am I a resident of the United States under those conditions? Yes, absolutely. So the fact that I'm taking an extremely long vacation in Mexico does not do anything to my eligibility. I'm still paying taxes in the U.S. too. We're trying.
All right, Mr. Chafee. How do you support your vote for the Patriot Act?
That was a mistake. And you have to put it in context that even Ron Paul voted for it, and the smoke was still coming out of the Pentagon, Twin Towers. It was still smoldering. We made some mistakes. I probably cast 5,000 different votes. That was a mistake. And I should have not trusted Bush and Cheney. They deserve not to be trusted. So a lot of us make mistakes on that one. I'll own up to it. But it's just renewed my passion for our civil liberties. since then. And on a stage, when they asked, is Snowden a hero, I was the only one that said, absolutely, bring him home and drop charges. So I've become more militant since being burned by voting for the Patriot Act.
Second question. Many libertarians are looking for a bold libertarian message from our next candidate. How do you plan to seek their support, especially after the Kennedy interview?
The Kennedy interview, that, and they were saying was getting into killing. And she said, we want to talk, and because, as I said, subcommittee, yes or no questions, I thought it was unfair. I said, talk about Iran. And so I didn't get to answer the Second Amendment question, although I've taken a lot of heat for not answering it. And my position is very clear now. People don't trust their government. And they deserve not to trust the United States government. We've been lied to on weapons of mass destruction. We've been lied to that there's going to be an end in Afghanistan. We've been lied to on what Edward Snowden pointed out. These are lies by our government. And the authors of the Constitution wrote the Second Amendment for when we don't trust our government. They also wrote the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment for that. So I pledge to stand by every letter and every word of the Second Amendment if I'm your nominee.
Mr. Kokesh, do you believe your past activism, particularly your arrests, help or harm your campaign?
How many people in this room have been arrested against your will by agents of the state? More or less libertarian. And I would actually, in a very friendly way, challenge Mr. Chafee on the resume question. Certainly, by some measures, you can't beat being a former senator and a former governor. But I would rather be a successful civil disobedience activist who has done what is right over what is legal every single time than a successful Republican or Democrat.
All right, the second question is, your platform is based on dissolving the federal government. How do you plan on getting support from the average American who does not want that?
I think the premise of your question is incorrect there, with all due respect, Mr. Parrish. The average American wants an end to polarization. They want an end to centralized control. They want power back in their communities. This is the everybody gets what they want strategy. When you look at the policy, every agency, every issue, you go, wow, yeah, localization solves that too. But it solves a bigger problem that we face as a libertarian party, getting this message out to the general public. Let's stop playing politics. Let's stop playing their games. Let's stop arguing issues and statistics and personalities and silly things like that that don't speak to us and don't speak to them. It's about principle. It's about giving people what they want, bringing together every single American on what it really means to be American. Respect for each other's freedom. That's what this platform represents.
Yeah. Mr. Hornberger, you come off as calm and mild. Do you believe you have the charisma and energy to fight for your place in the media in the current Trump environment? If so, how?
What was the first part? I'm sorry?
You come off as calm and mild.
Oh, calm and mild. Well, in any battle, you have to go with what the circumstances are. That if you're appearing before an editorial board of a newspaper and they're interviewing you, want to get your positions, I don't think that's the time for screaming and yelling. But when you're before a group, your base, when you're trying to charge up that base because you know you can't run a race without your base, that's when you start talking about principles and ideals. And I think that's where some of the Libertarian Party candidates have faltered sometimes in the quest to reach out for votes. And they water down the message, and then they lose me sometimes. And I think this is where Ron Paul was so effective, is that Ron knew how to charge up his base. And you get your heart thumping. And I went to New Hampshire before the primary there in 2008. I went door to door for Ron Paul. So I think there's a time and place for everything. There's a time for place for calm and reason, and then there's a time for passion and excitement. And you got to be able to differentiate between the two.
Time. Your campaign is referred to as Revolution 2.0, or has been. Do you believe your campaign can rival Ron Paul's 2012 campaign in terms of positive impact on this party?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, that's my quest. I mean, what Ron Paul did to me is absolutely incredible. He's one of my real-life heroes. I mean, what he did to energize this movement and garner millions of people into declaring in favor of a libertarian and self-describing as libertarian, it's the most exciting political phenomenon in my lifetime.
There's a loser mentality, and I'm devoting the next 10 years of my life to destroy that mentality and turn this party into winners. Because that's what I do, is win.
Mr. Supreme.
Yes.
How do you square pony redistribution and mandatory tooth cleaning with libertarian principles?
Once again, I will answer that in much the same way as I've been answering that question in an interview up in New Hampshire recently. They get all excited, it's Vermin Supreme, they think he's going to say something funny about ponies and stuff, and I preface it with, yes, my name is Vermin Supreme, I'm a highly respected political satirist, beloved by millions, who has indeed used the satirical elements of free ponies, mandatory toothbrushing laws, zombies, time travel, etc., to illuminate the fallacies of the state and its ridiculous positions and the things that they promise. So I pretty much popped the lid off it. Of course, when you get right down to it, no, those things are not libertarian at all. And I believe that is the point of why I utilize these simple, elegant, and very effective satirical elements that almost anybody gets. Thank you. And you have another one?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Your performance art is decidedly whimsical.
Thank you.
How will you convince voters to take your candidacy and our party seriously?
Well, I believe if you look at any of my long-term interviews, if you read any of the media that goes into any sort of depth, I believe my presentation is understood to be just that, a whimsical presentation, and I have always been glad and always happy to break down that fourth wall and pivot into the serious issues that I'm attempting to comment on. So I don't believe it's a real situation. I believe most of the people in the media over the past 30 years certainly get it. And I believe that many, many citizens, if not all, and many, many libertarians, if not all, do in fact get that fact, that it is a very serious presentation. It may be a joke, but it is a very serious joke. Thank you.
Ms. Jorgensen, in light of your 1996 Libertarian VP run, what is the best strategy to reach outside of the Libertarian Party and reach those in other parties who may be on the fence about supporting a Libertarian candidate?
I think the way to do it is the way Harry Brown did it, with a principled and yet practical message. Because people out there want to know, they're interested in their problems. They're interested in how are they going to pay their health care bills? How are they going to pay their mortgage when their health care bills are so high? And they're looking towards government now. And what we have to do is we have to show a principled but practical approach. And what we've seen recently, for instance, now we've got marijuana legalized in many states. We didn't get that by people just yelling freedom. We got that by convincing people, hey, you know what? Gunfire is not going to erupt in the streets. You know what? Your kids are not going to be drugged out zombies. I'm going to use one of my cards. The way we need to do it is we need to explain how liberty works and how it best helps them. And what we need to do is we need to become excited about their issues, not our issues. For instance, right now, and one of the ways I want to expand the Libertarian Party and expand the movement is to go after young people because young people, I'll use all four if I have to, because young people are naturally libertarians, they're naturally tolerant, they have a natural distrust for authority, and they want to hear our message. And right now, the young people are interested in the environment. And that's something that libertarian candidates historically have not been very interested in, so we haven't talked about it. Well, you know what? That's what the people want to talk about, so that's what I'm going to talk about. Right now they're interested in healthcare. How are they going to pay their healthcare bills? So that's what I will talk about. I'm not going to talk about private roads and everything else that excites us. I'm going to talk about what excites voters.
How do you plan to transition the nation's electrical production from fossil fuels to nuclear?
Free market. One of the problems that we had with, first of all, let me point out, what I'm advocating is advanced nuclear power. This is new technology. The new power plants are about a tenth the size of the old ones. One of the problems we had with the earlier one is we had the government, basically, we took technology that was used to cool submarines and put these above the ground and somehow figure, well, we're going to have water cool them even though they're up in the air. What came in, and here's how I explained it on a radio show I was on a few weeks ago, is imagine if the government came in and we have Bill Gates and we've got Steve Jobs, and the government comes in and says, okay, we pick Steve Jobs, no more Bill Gates, no more Microsoft. Or the other way around. What if the government comes in and says, okay, Bill Gates, you're the winner. We don't have any Apple. What we're going to do now, what I would like to see now, is to have companies compete with their technology, not having winner takes all when the government decides the winner, because government always picks their friends. They pick people who are their special interests, people who donate to their campaigns. We need the consumers to pick the winners, not the government.
Mr. Mons, on your website you have as president. What would your administration continue to do?
Well, on the anti-platform, I talk about things that we're going to stop the government from doing. But like you've heard from some of the other candidates, number one is end all the foreign wars immediately. That's something the president can do unilaterally. That's the first order of business. Bring all the troops home and the drones, period. Next, repeal the federal income tax. It's simple. You send legislation to Congress repealing the 16th Amendment. Let them argue over whether they want to do it or not, but I can guarantee you everybody that I've ever proposed that to has said, when I asked them, do you want to get rid of the federal income tax? They said yes. Would you like to get rid of the IRS? They said yes. That is an issue that we can push. Let the other candidates in a debate argue over why they don't want to get rid of the slave tax, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah. That's what we push. Like Arvin mentioned earlier also, the third thing I'm going to do is this. Review all 81,000 incarcerated inmates in the federal system that are in there for drug offenses and either pardon or commute their sentences if they had a non-violent, victimless crime. But don't leave it at that. We also have to address those who are on parole and have been pardoned. We want to address that as well. Now, those are three issues that a libertarian presidential candidate can get done, can win on, and that is something that's non-negotiable. And then we'll move from there, we move to other issues. But those are the first three things as president that I will handle.
As an active member of your local NAACP, What part of the Libertarian Party's message appeals most to people of color?
I'm very proud of being a part of NAACP, and it's only on the local level, and that's where people need help. And they've come, and I've had an opportunity to help people who are in need. A lot of times it's because they're struggling with things that the government has done to them. And I can give you several examples to point to what I did on a local level. As a presidential candidate, I can go to the organization and present our ideas on a national level, and that's what I plan on doing. Freedom versus slavery, I think, is a very, once again, winnable issue to anybody, especially to those who have been misused and abused by government for over 400 years. That's the type of thing that I can do, is bring the message to non-traditional groups in this country.
Thank you. Now we'll be allowing each candidate to ask another candidate a question. First up, Mr. Supreme, ask any of the other candidates a question.
Arvin, I didn't know you were still in the race. I guess that's more of a comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Berman. I am in this race.
It wasn't really a question. No, it wasn't a question. It was just a comment. That's all. You don't have to respond. You can say, yeah, I'm still in the race or whatever. That's all. No, it's good. It's okay. It's all right. No, it's fine. Totally fine. That was just a comment. That's all. I guess I don't really have a question for you. Sorry.
Oh, so the question. So now has the question been asked?
No, there wasn't really a question. There wasn't a question.
So do I have a minute to respond to the statement?
I mean, I guess.
Okay, yes.
Sure, whatever. Yeah, okay.
I am running for president to end the welfare state and end the income tax. And if you want to help my campaign get that message out, right now we are putting out ads that talk about pardoning Julian Assange, Ross Ulbricht, Edward Snowden on my first day. But it also corrects one of the deficiencies in the government school system. Most people who have been inside of a government school never learned that jury nullification brought freedom of the press to America. And as more people learn that, and that's one of the components of the ad, I'm going to help empower people right now with this knowledge so that we can halt the drug war through jury nullification. If you want to help that, a $20 donation can help us buy an ad that will be heard by tens or hundreds of thousands of people on the radio. My website, if you want to do that, to help us get that message out there, is votebora.com.
Definitely not the answer to the question I did not ask. Thank you.
Mr. Hornberger, your question.
This question is addressed to Lincoln Chafee. Lincoln, when you ran for president as a Democrat in the Democratic Party just 3 years ago, you expressed ardent support for the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, and you also expressed support for a movement toward universal health care. My question is, do you still hold these positions, and if not, would you explain how they now differ and what has caused you to change your position in this area?
Yeah, my evolution after being elected as the first independent elected as governor of Rhode Island, and Rhode Island's long history, is I found that as governing it was difficult without having a party behind my back. And so I did join the Democratic Party, did run for president. The reason I ran for president is I thought Hillary Clinton should not be anointed. And at the time when I stepped forward, Sanders hadn't stepped forward, Webb hadn't stepped forward. It was just Hillary Clinton and a guy named Martin O'Malley. And I said, I've got the resume, I'll challenge her. I voted against the war. And on the health care issue, Jacob, I just don't think Americans want to go and have their primary health care in the emergency room. We've all been there in the emergency room. It's a jungle. And the shifts change. The emergency room doctor, the nurses, they're there 1 minute, and then you're still there because an emergency comes in that supersedes you. The doctor goes off on their shift, and then comes a new doctor and says, "What's your problem?" New nurse comes in, "What's your problem?" "I just told it an hour ago." That's without some kind of organized health care. I'll do a card on that one. We can't go back to having Americans have their primary care in the emergency room. And the other issue is, I don't like insurance companies. They're always changing. 1 minute it's one thing they'll cover, 1 minute it's another. And so there's just got to be a better way.
Mr. Whitney.
This is for Attorney Hornberger. I sell the law to lawyers. I've defeated the government several times. I've won 3 federal appeals. I got so good at helping prisoners, the government sued me to stop me, and I beat them at that. Can you cite, you have said that you're this vicious trial lawyer who's going to go out and make the argument on behalf of this party that you're somehow going to keep the lights on more than 24 hours after the morning after Austin. And I'm wondering, sir, can you give this audience a single book and page citation of any case that you've ever won? Or would you rather I answer that for you?
No, I'll be happy to answer it. Apparently your law directory doesn't include the case of Foster versus Laredo newspaper. When I graduated from law school, I went home to practice law with my dad, who was a lawyer. And before I got my license, I passed the bar exam. He said, get to working, you're going to argue the Foster case before the Texas Supreme Court. Well, I didn't have my license yet, but I got the state bar to issue my license in a real quick hurry. And so I argued Foster versus Laredo newspapers, and it turned out to be a major landmark decision in Texas law on libel and slander. We won the case. A few months after that, I was appointed by the federal judge to represent a man who was charged in a conspiracy to distribute cocaine, who was claiming he was innocent. I handled that case, went up against U.S. attorney, was my first jury trial in federal court, and we were able to determine, I was able to determine that it was a frame-up, that the DEA had set this man up. And while the experienced trial lawyer who was representing the co-defendant pled his client guilty, my client steadfastly said he was innocent, and I knew from law school, you don't plead an innocent man guilty. We went to trial, and we proved the setup, and my man was acquitted. There's 2 for you.
That's right. Mr. Mons.
My question is for Joe. While I never met Harry Brown, I do admire his run for office, and I wanted to know if you have any funny or fun stories about campaigning with Harry.
Oh, geez. I don't know how I'm going to live up to that awe, though. Oh gosh. Well, I'm sorry. The story that sticks out might sound like I'm bragging, so I hate to say this story. But when I was in the debate, I was in a third-party debate at the American University, and Harry Brown was a little worried about the debate, so he was in the other room, and his wife Pamela said, "I'll watch it for you, don't worry." And he apparently came in the room because she was screaming, going, "Oh, you'll never believe how she answered that." So that's the best I got. By the next debate, I will try to think of a better answer.
Mr. Vora.
This question is for Lincoln Chafee. Do you believe that the government, I'll leave it open. Should the government continue to ban fully automatic machine gun assault weapons, call them whatever you want? Should that ban continue, or would you work to repeal it, or would you work to pardon people who have been convicted under that ban?
I answered the question earlier, but I'll answer it again. The American people have a right not to trust their government. They have a right not to. They lied to us about the biggest blunder in American history, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and we had to invade Iraq. It doesn't get any worse than that. It's cost us over 4,000 American lives. It's cost us $6 trillion, and it's cost us American credibility around the world. We lied to the world. They also lied to us about the end in sight in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan papers point that out. They've lied to us about, I will answer the question, don't interrupt me. They lied to us about, we're not tapping your phones. Snowden pointed out, by the way, our government is. And the authors of the Constitution wrote these words, the words of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, for when we don't trust our government. And we have every right not to trust our government right now. So I have pledged to defend every word and every syllable of the Second Amendment.
That was not an answer to the question that I did ask.
Mr. Berman.
It was.
This question is for Mr. Vermin Supreme.
Yes.
That is your real name?
Yes. Passport, driver's license.
Would you consider it a human right or a civil right for a person, of course with the consent of all other people involved,
Yes.
to put pineapple on top of a pizza?
I believe that is a question best left to the American people.
Ms. Jorgensen.
This question is for Arvin, and this is a question, not a comment. What is your definition of a libertarian?
To me, a libertarian is somebody who wants to cut massive parts of government. And I do specifically mean the sacred cows of government. A libertarian, to me, must be somebody who opposes universal government schools. To me, a libertarian must be somebody who wants to radically cut taxes. They don't have to cut taxes 100%, but if you don't want to cut taxes at all, like Gary Johnson, who wanted a revenue-neutral fair tax, it's not a libertarian. To me, a libertarian is somebody, a delete key, a pair of scissors. It's someone who's trying to cut government and add nothing. I think the quintessential libertarian, who said it so beautifully, of course, was Harry Brown, who talked about cutting government schools, or eliminating government schools, eliminating the income tax, selling federal land to pay off Social Security. He talked about why government doesn't work, which is why that's one book that has so deeply inspired me. So that is my definition of a libertarian. If you have never read one of Harry Brown's books, I so strongly recommend you read that. That right there is what I call a libertarian.
Mr. Chafee, your question.
I'll return the favor to Jacob. We all work so hard here in politics for success, and we spend our energy, our resources. If there was one issue for the Libertarian Party to take out our nominee, whoever it is, one issue to take to the American people and build the party with this one issue, what would it be?
Foreign policy, without any doubt at all. And it's not, this has been the great destroyer. I mean, the welfare state has been the destroyer of our freedom. No question about it. The drug war as well, the regulated managed economy, the Federal Reserve, no doubt about it, public schooling. But the national security state and its foreign policy of foreign interventionism has been the great destroyer. I would bring troops home, not just from the so-called forever wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, so forth. I would bring home the troops from everywhere. Korea, Europe, World War II's over, Africa, Latin America, and discharge them. They're not necessary. Ended this policy of foreign interventionism entirely. Open the borders to the free movements of goods and people. Now you're unleashing the private sector, which people around the world love. People love Americans. They love our money, they love our tourists, they love our businessmen, they love our culture groups. They just don't like the federal government, and rightly so. That's the great destroyer. That's the way we get American people on our side in terms of liberty.
Good answer. I like it.
Mr. Kokesh?
I have a question for Vermin Supreme. Are you ready for this one? It's a three-parter. Buckle up.
Yes.
All right, so you have said that you are not punking the Libertarian Party as you punked Republicans and Democrats before.
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask then, as someone who is now running as a Libertarian with a serious message behind what you're doing,
yes, sir.
First, if you're not the nominee, what will you do to support the nominee and continue your support of the party? Because I'm very glad that you're included in this conversation. 2, can I get a unicorn instead of a pony? And 3, do you mind if I name it after you?
Okay, I will take this in the order they were asked, if I can remember them in the order that they were asked. Yes, once again, I don't always shill for a political party. But when I do shill for a political party, be assured that it is the Libertarian Party. Let me assure you that I shall continue to shill for the Libertarian Party and spread the good word of the Libertarian Party. I imagine that I will make myself available at various rallies and what have you if I am not the nominee to support the nominee. And of course, I think it's a very easy pivot for me to say of the nominees. For example, was Mr. Mond, I could very easily say that a vote for John Mond is a vote for Vermin Supreme.
Are you going to use your card?
And number 2, there will be conversion kits for sure to convert your pony into a unicorn, and you can name your pony anything you want. You get your choice of color, how many legs you want, and the flavor. Thank you.
Since I haven't gotten asked a question yet, I just want to take this opportunity to raise an issue that I'm disappointed is not raised more often in these debates, which is military and veteran suicide. We have 20 a day at least, and this is an underreported problem, including suicide. And if you don't have a serious answer to this issue, you should not be taken seriously as a presidential candidate. What we are proposing is nothing less than privatizing the VA. Give every single veteran in America, each of us, one ownership voting share. End the drug war. Give us the freedom to at least medicate as we see fit. And I guarantee you're not going to have 22 veteran suicides a day. And the one other thing I'd like to say is my answer to my own here with what I would like to do for whoever the nominee is. Presidential debates. Yeah, that's what I thought. When we organized Veterans for Ron Paul in 2012, we marched on the White House with a massive formation. They do not allow the Libertarians in the debate this year. We are going to do the same thing and march on the debates wherever they are in this country and shut them down if we have to, because if they won't let the Libertarian debate this year, we will not let the Democrat debate either. Whether they let us on the stage or not, Libertarians will be in the debate in 2020.
I've also...
Let me reset the timer.
Okay.
All right.
How much time do I have?
30 seconds.
Okay, I've also pledged... Mike, anybody, here we go. I've also pledged to be at all 3 debates as your nominee. The only question is whether I'll be on the stage or whether I'll be getting arrested 3 times. I don't see Jacob or Lincoln getting hauled away in cuffs. I asked Lincoln to provide a book and page citation. There are no criminal... Westlaw and Lexis, thelaw.net, containing Attorney Hornberger's name. His career as an attorney was inconsequential. Very inconsequential.
Are there any remaining cards? Would you like to use them?
I would.
Go ahead.
You're entitled to a presidential candidate that is going to be going out and expressing what you're fighting for and what you stand for. And I want you to know that you should be very proud of your convention organizer, your moderator, and your party hierarchy for the policy they have set forth here. It is not censorship. Censorship involves...
Authoritarian.
Mr. Moderator, would you put him under control, please?
I'll be good. Go ahead.
Censorship in the First Amendment involves Congress. Read the First Amendment. All it says is a control on Congress and the federal government. Private property and private ownership is the bedrock of liberty, which is what we stand for as libertarianism. They have every right, and you should be proud of them for setting this policy. I told you that when I was in the 5th grade, I campaigned for John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. I was excited about that campaign. I want this children into this thing. I want families to feel comfortable bringing their children into these conventions and in participating in this campaign if I'm your nominee. And the worst thing we can do is to have profanity in these conventions and in this campaign. And last one. To have the excitement of a campaign based on principle is what I'm proposing for this party. Let me just wrap this up. So I commend you guys for the policy you've done and the courage you've done in setting this policy. I think it's a tremendous benefit to this party, and I think it's going to bring a lot of families and young people into the movement and into this party. Finally, when there's a district court criminal case in federal court and there's an acquittal, that does not go into the law books. There's no opinion written.
That's true.
Exactly, it's true. It's true. Of course it's true. And every trial, I was a trial lawyer. I was not an appellate lawyer. I handled some appeals. I appealed to the 5th Circuit. I appealed to the Texas Court of Civil Appeals. But my primary job was a trial attorney, county court at law.
Mr. Time.
Those are not in the reported opinion.
Mr. Kokesh?
I'd just like to say it's been an amazing experience so far in this campaign. We've been running for almost 2 years, and to see candidates come together as a team, all of us, has been a really incredible experience. And I hope that spirit continues beyond tonight, possibly. But really, what we have an opportunity to do with a presidential campaign in 2020, as I said, it's not just unite all Americans, but yeah, we're going to be uniting all the nonsense factions and divisions within the libertarian movement as well. We are all here because we care about freedom. We want nothing less than a world set free in our lifetimes. Let's pull together.
Taxation is theft.
Yeah.
Inflation is too.
All right. Before we go to the closing statements, you guys all use your cards, right? No?
Can I sum my
Would you like to use them all?
Sure. I've spent this past year working really hard trying to make a sale, trying to let the Libertarian Party and the delegates and the individual understand the offer that I am in fact putting on the table. Yes, I have a cast of characters. Yes, I have a character that I've developed. And yes, I have a very large fan base and all sorts of metrics to show that. And so, yes, I do have a magic boot. Yes, it has allowed me to communicate my First Amendment rights in an exponential fashion. It has allowed me to communicate with millions of Americans and communicate to media from around the flat globe. And these are some of the things that I have to bring to the table. And with my remaining time, I'd like us all to take just a moment of silence and meditate on how much we love one another. Thank you.
I love you too.
Thank you. Was there any more cards?
Thank you.
I guess I could.
No. All right. Well, there will after the debate. So please, if you have not got your little soldiers, see Ashley. It is time for closing statements. Mr. Chafee, 90 seconds.
Well, thank you once again, Florida Libertarians. Great turnout here. Keep up the good work. All the grassroots efforts you're making are going to pay off. And my own prediction is that 2020 is going to be different. This is our year of opportunity. I just believe that. I just watch the Democratic Party, the animosity that's coming out of this primary they're involved in, and it's philosophical differences from the moderates or the progressives, what do you want to call them, but it's a war over there. And so this is just going to be a terrific opportunity for something different in this country. And I know we've always gotten our hopes up in the past, but I just believe 2020 is going to be different. And the issues that are going to resonate after the Democrats pick their nominee, it's going to be limited government, what we've all worked for all these decades. And that means just leave us alone. Let us live our lives as we see fit. We can make those own decisions. Leave us alone. All your job is balance the books. Don't give our children $23 trillion in growing deficits and interest on that debt. And respect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the 10th Amendment. Those are states' rights issues in the 10th Amendment. This is all the American people are asking. Leave us alone, balance the books, keep us out of wars, and respect our constitutional freedoms. I appreciate any support you could give me going forward. I love this country. Thank you.
Mr. Whitney.
Thank you very much. I'd invite you all to go to markwhitney.com, click on Memoir, and watch Fool for a Client. I've spent the last 15 years preaching libertarianism to Democrats and Republicans, and if you watch that show, you'll see that I get a standing ovation when I do that. And the reason Attorney Hornberger was a failed attorney, this is not a Fourth Amendment issue. Property rights is Fourth Amendment. This is a First Amendment issue tonight. I'm going to advertise this forum at every subsequent debate, because what you've seen on this stage tonight is one leader. All of my opponents have failed tonight by their acquiescence, by their silence, by their acquiescence to the authoritarianism that imposed speech codes on a libertarian presidential debate. I'm going to Birmingham on Thursday after I fly back to San Diego. They are not censoring their debate, and I will be a choir boy there to prove that I know the difference. Thanks for your time tonight. One person. I got one delegate. We start there.
Mr. Kokesh.
Hey, bring it on, authoritarians.
You can start the clock now. This November, you might have 3 choices on the ballot. Donald Trump, a liberal, Democrat, billionaire, playboy, who banned bump stocks from New York City, or Michael Bloomberg, a liberal, Democrat, billionaire, playboy, who banned 20-ounce sodas from New York City. Any one of these libertarian candidates on stage tonight would be a better option. And yes, please, for everybody here on stage tonight, for standing up to represent the Libertarian Party. I think we need a candidate in 2020, and I'm running so that we can have a candidate for the Libertarian Party who has a proven record of getting national media attention, who can leverage existing name ID, who can support localization and local candidates in their races all across this country for the Libertarian Party, and work strategically with the national leadership and the state and local leadership of this party to win more races, but also with a message that can unify every single American and everyone across this party around the ideals of freedom. Someone who can make it clear to the American people why people like you and I are willing to stand up and put our lives on the line to ensure nothing less than a world set free in our lifetimes. Thank you very much.
Ms. Jorgensen.
Our goal is nothing more nor less than a world set free in our lifetime. That's from the preamble of our party platform. A simple statement of liberty like that is enough for those of us who love liberty, which I believe is everybody here on stage and all of you in the audience. But it's not enough for most voters. My doctoral degree is in industrial organizational psychology, and it deals with topics such as leadership and motivation. And I understand that people need to see before they buy. They need to see a way that their goals can be accomplished. And we need to do that in a principled manner. We need to show how the libertarian answer is the best. So we need to stand up for the Second Amendment, even after another school shooting. We need to get rid of the drug war, even when we're in the middle of an opioid crisis. And we need to bring the troops home, even after the Democrats and Republicans give us all sorts of scare tactics. I would like to see America become one giant Switzerland. If you're interested in my campaign, please go to joj2020.com. Thank you.
Mr. Hornberger.
Yeah, thank you all very much. If there's one issue that unites us all in this party, it's that we all want to be free. And that's why I've entered this race. I want to be free before I pass from this earth. And we have the greatest opportunity in the 49-year history of this party to do some open field running in pursuit of that goal. This is not the time to falter. This is not the time to hesitate. This is not the time to come up with reforms of socialized medicine or Social Security. This is the time for making the case for liberty, where people have a right to live their lives the way they want, keep all of the money they earn. They step up to the plate and honor mother and father on a voluntary basis, where charity is entirely voluntary, where I don't want to just legalize marijuana, legalize it all, because people have a right to ingest whatever they want to ingest. I want to see the restoration of a limited government republic and the dismantling of the national security state totalitarian system. A limited government republic with a basic military. Open trade, free trade, and open immigration. We are libertarians, my friends. We are not Republican lights. We are not Democrat lights. We are not socially liberal and economically conservative. We are libertarians, and we need to fight as libertarians. And that means with our principles, our greatest asset. If we go down, we go down. But at least we go down fighting for who we are, as we are, libertarians. I think the American people are yearning for something greater and bigger. That's why I'm here asking for your vote, your support, and your nomination in May.
Mr. Boyle.
If there's one thing that I do well, it's getting a large number of people talking, often hysterically, about the topics that I want them to discuss. If I'm the nominee, I will trigger America. Our topics will be, if not at the Commission on Presidential Debates, if Adam can't break me in, it will be happening at every water cooler debate, at every dinner table debate. They will be discussing our issues. I can't say it'll always be favorably, but we will change hearts and minds. And I mean change, not pander to. We should not be fitting our big ideas into small minds, but using the ideas that helped us grow, that made us better people. Using those ideas to help our brothers and sisters grow. In the 1980s, Ron Paul, at the height of the popularity of the drug war, stood out on a talk show and spoke against the drug war. And people yelled at him and screamed at him. And during the times when many of the people in this room were attacking me for my opposition to military enlistment, or for my opposition to government schools, or for my opposition to government setting the age of adulthood, when people were yelling at me, I would watch that video. Because I knew that no matter how bold I was being, that was still a level higher. And that's what I will strive to do for you. I can't promise I'll be as bold as Dr. Paul was, but I will do my absolute best, and I will never stop fighting. I will not lie. I will not give lies of omission, and I will not give nonsense politician answers to straight questions. I will fight for our platform. My website is votevora.com.
Mr. Berman.
Why don't libertarians win elections? Oh. Come on, guys. guys. If I asked that on Facebook, you'd have a million answers for me. So, simply put, we think everybody already wants to be free, which they do at their core, but right now, they're afraid. I mean, we talk about it all the time. People vote for a Democrat because they're afraid of what's going to happen if the Republican wins, or the other way around. It's all fear. There is $3.5 trillion in printed US currency in circulation. Every year, our local, state, and federal government will extract from us $7.5 trillion. That's more than twice the amount of money that's in circulation. If that's not something to be afraid of, I don't know what is. But why does socialism sell so well? Because people are afraid to die. And of course, the propaganda's made them afraid to die. You gotta get the medication or you're gonna get really sick and die. But don't worry, we've got the solution for you. And so they address what people want. And if we want to shift to where we're attracting all of those voters to give us their support and put us in the White House and make real change, we need to start addressing their real concerns, and then they'll see why libertarianism is so great.
Mr. Mons, I would like you to just imagine for a moment that you make me your nominee for president and what that would mean for the Libertarian Party. One, excitement, free media, but you also have a candidate that has a proven record of success for the Libertarian Party. There's no doubt. You don't have to question on whether I'm libertarian enough. I've been in races for over 15 years. And if you even watch an old video, you see that I'm very consistent on the message. As far as media concerned, there's some papers on the tables and throughout the room. This week in Florida, I had a front page story in the Florida Courier that went out. There were over 40,000 copies distributed throughout the state. That's what I can do for the party, is bring in non-traditional people to the party. I'd like to thank the Libertarian Party of Florida for allowing me to be in the debate and having an awesome convention. If you didn't get a paper, go on the website for floridacourier.com. And if you are a non-libertarian watching this video, please check out lp.org for the national organization and LP Florida. Join the party, get involved, and let's become free.
Mr. Supreme.
Yes, I would like to say that if anybody has any lingering questions regarding my 30 years of very serious activism, please, I implore you, watch the documentary, feature-length documentary, Who is Vermin Supreme? It is available on Vimeo. Once again, can a serious party put up a perceived joke candidate and not have that shit stick to them? I believe that yes, they can. I believe it is, I apologize for that. It is really in the framing. It's simply a matter of
I've been so good.
Of putting forth the proposal that yes, we are the Libertarian Party, we are a serious party, and we have very serious ideals. However, the current electoral political duopoly system has risen to the level of a joke, and with love and spite, here is Vermin Supreme. Hashtag, we are in on the joke. It can work. There are 3.9 million high school students that graduate every year. Give me 2 of those years, that's 8 million. Add that to 17 million college kids. If you get 1 out of 4 of those kids to vote for me, that is 6.5 million, aka 5% of the general. This can be a transformational moment. Love is my middle name. I am a uniter, and I have a fan base, a base of support that spans the political spectrum from hard left to hard right, as does my campaign staff full of principled libertarians from the left and right. I would ask you to check out my website, verminsupreme2020.com. Check out the endorsements that I've been getting. My staff and I believe that I can be a very effective messenger for liberty. You will get the choice of 2 time streams. One will involve one of these other fine candidates. The other will involve me and monster trucks. Thank you.
Thank you, all of our candidates. Thank you very much. This has been the 2020 Libertarian Presidential Candidate Debate from the Libertarian Party of Florida, February 22nd, 2020. Thank you all for being here. And good night. Libertarians, do not forget to stick around and vote in the straw poll. We want to know what you're thinking. The buckets to receive your little green men votes are near the front door. Well, then you're special. What does color matter?
Why's it gotta be discolored?